I can remember when my parents sat me and my brothers down and told us that we were going to start a new community, new church. I imagined, a big stadium, hundreds of people all listening to my dad up the front. And, the floor would open up and out I'd come in a drum kit, I learned very quickly that, no, this is quite different. This is something else.
Probably for me, the big thing that I like about Kiwi Church is the essence of not trying to do everything. We gather around specific things and build community around those gatherings rather than come, do it all, that's church, done, we're away, come back next week. It's the simplicity of it. We don't try and make it more than what it is.
It's a safe space for me, and safe to me means that I can ask any question at any time, and I know that the discussion is more important than the answer, and that people here don't really mind or care about what I believe. They care about who I am.
Of the last 5 years or so, there's been a desire within me. I'm trying to be close to God. I'm trying to be responsive to integrity and authenticity, in the sense that within me, when I'm on my head's on my pillow at night or driving alone to work in my car, there's an inner voice for me that is, I think, is God. And so for me, it was around trying to find an environment where I could thrash that out, talk that through, try to understand that more. I feel like my faith journey, my formation, my desire to follow God is more real.
I enjoyed hanging out with really cool people. I actually enjoy the barbecues. I like the fact that it can be really flexible, so there's no kind of really pressure to actually perform or pressure to actually be here every single week.
I've loved being part of Kiwi Church. Kiwi Church is a new experience for me. It's the first time I've ever experienced authentic relationships and community in a sort of church context.
What I really like about Kiwi Church is the relaxed meetings that we have. People come along and they're free to be themselves. There's a bit of banter sometimes. We all are on the same level, learning and experiencing God. No one's better than anybody else. Everyone is accepted for the fact that they may be in a different part of their journey with God, but we're all there together.
I appreciate the getting back to basics. You don't have all of the needless traditions, if you like, all the ones from that were put in place by my grandparents' my great-great-great-grandparents' generation that have filtered down. We've stripped that away. Yeah, I appreciate that people take the time to get to know me and to talk with me. Being taken seriously is good, and being able to be part of the conversation.
Somebody will have something prepared to share, and then it becomes a bit of a free-for-all of whoever's got something to add to the conversation can do it immediately. There's no write your question down and ask the minister about it later. There's no wait until the service is over to go and file your complaint. Like, it's in the moment, it's real, it's authentic, it's right there, right now, and you can access it as soon as you arrive. Everybody's desire is the same. The desire is just to feel like you can be honest. Everybody's looking for a place where we can get real.
We like the family atmosphere, and we also like the way that we can all say our bits and we're all listened to and we're all appreciated. We're all so different, and we're learning together. It's not an easy road. We have our laughs, we have our good times, we also have our bad times. And at Kiwi Church we can share that and grow together, and that's what it's all about.
And we love that when you come on a Sunday, you never know what to expect. It's always different, and nothing is done just because that's how we always do it.
We've had times when doing church to meet the Sunday model has exhausted us. When we gather, particularly at our Thin Place gathering, there's a lot of life for us. We can come as we are.
I like the way that we try not to use the language of the church that has been around for so long and has so much crustiness attached to it. Making sure we use language that everybody can understand, I think, is very important to me.
I love about this community that there are people of every age, from 18 months all the way to 85 years.
We just believe that church should be intergenerational and everyone should be in the community. So that's what we love about Kiwi Church. It's just everyone's included.
When we came, I think the first time, it immediately felt like the kids were just part of the service, just like anyone else on the same level. And that's not something we'd probably experienced before in the same way. And it really gave us all a sense of belonging. The level of freedom we have here to just share how we feel and how we think, and do so without worrying about being judged or talked about, or there's a lot of freedom to be authentic, which I think I really value in a community like this.
I think we notice a difference in the kids as well. They've gone from not looking forward to going to church to actually asking, what's on for church today, what are we doing? People know their names, people ask them questions, and I think they feel valued for who they are individually.
I like it because Daryl sometimes lets families run the service.
Yes, I think that was probably our biggest priority, was somewhere where the kids felt safe and that they were part of things, and that they could grow up with a group of people who would stand alongside them and journey with them.
Kiwi Church is a network of relational communities. The circles represent each community. We have Beer and Barbecue Church, a monthly gathering. We practice hospitality. It's a safe space to ask questions and engage with God's story and explore things of a spiritual nature. Vertical One, it's a much smaller gathering, more intimate, again around the table.
Vertical One is really a conversation. It's, I guess if you looked at a horizontal conversation, that would be about, what the latest thing we bought, or how was work today, or the weather, or those types of mundane things. Whereas Vertical One is important to me because it's about exploring what's happening for me in terms of our values, in terms of my family. So a Vertical was around about a deeper conversation. The importance of V1 for me brings me into a community that we meet regularly to have a conversation that I feel like in here I need to have.
The youth and young adults, exploring ways to help that age group kind of be together. We're just asking questions around that at the moment.
For many years we had a youth group running, and that was pool and table tennis and fish and chips and really good conversations. And what's happened is a lot of those kids have now grown up. So they were teenagers and now they're young adults. The context for them changes. So we're on this journey right now of having conversations with them and exploring what that looks like for them now.
In West Otago, Jeff and Margie Ray down south in a rural context, they are exploring what it means to take some of the things we've learnt and how is that expressed in the countryside. West Christchurch is a new community, just in the early days of listening and exploring what that could look like. Thin Place is a fortnightly community where people from different ones can gather and express worship together and sit with God's story. It also has a contemplative nature around it. Formation is a really important part of our journey, and so these triangles represent that. The gym is a time where we practice spiritual disciplines and look at discipleship, those kind of things. Rituals of healings and renovate are around being healed from our past or deconstructing our faith in a safe way. These squares are around just relational activities, particularly the outdoors one. Every fifth Sunday we go outdoors into this beautiful country and meet with God intentionally. And all of these gatherings and activities kind of head towards heading out and about. Once a month we gather and serve and find ways to participate with God to making the world more beautiful, as well as in our daily lives, supporting people and their day-to-day activities and being part of what God is doing.
One of the things about Kiwi Church that I really like is that we can all be together as family, and that naturally then is intergenerational. I liken it to a family meal, intentionally sitting together at a table and making a place for everyone. You make sure there's enough to share around with everyone and that everyone can participate, and that's kind of how I think the Christian community needs to be. That everyone's involved, that we notice, we pause, and to me that's what truly being intergenerational is about. You do need to be intentional. You need to make a space for people whose voice isn't naturally heard or they naturally wouldn't want to share. But when you pause and make room, what comes out is just so rich.
There's lots of battles. It's probably the hardest thing we've ever done in church life, and maybe the most rewarding as well. So often people ask, what do you do, at Kiwi Church? While sometimes those are helpful conversations, it's the wrong question. Each of us need to sit with God's story and ask, what is the essence of church and what is the essence of the good news? Just like what is the essence of being intergenerational. You can't do these things. We've got to sit with what are they, and then how do we express that in the context that we're in. So really, church could look different in every single context. We can talk about the actual activities, but if someone wants to take that activity and then just simply replicate it, it loses its heart and loses its essence. And so that's work that we all need to do.
My hope for Kiwi Church is that it's a place of community, and community is more than just coming to an event. Community is about knowing people. We can't say we've actually solved that problem. We're on a journey. We don't get precious over something that we have already in place, so we can, if this isn't working, let's try something different.
We're always needing to give things a go and reflect and, try those kind of things. And they don't always work out. Sometimes it's a great idea and no one else thinks it is, and that's okay. The longer this goes on, the more we learn that when we are trying to create a new way of being, there's no blueprint, and so it is simply a matter of figuring it out as we go.
I grew up in a tradition where I was surrounded by people my own age, all the way through youth services, young adult services. And the thing with Kiwi Church is that you don't choose who walks in the door. You have lots of different opinions and people coming from different walks of life. In some church spaces that's viewed as a challenge, but I think at Kiwi Church it's really embraced.
When we get people in, we take care of them, and we do that really well. We do that, including people in the church, really well. What we don't do that as well, as far as I can see, is we don't have the helping the poor and the sick and the needy, and we don't have as much in terms of outreach. I think we've got places we can go there.
A challenge we have is the barbecue community, which has been going for a few years now, is actually too big to build authentic relationships. We know from experience that a smaller community of only a few people, even meeting once a month, it doesn't take long to get some real depth.
I often get asked how Kiwi Church is going and whether it's getting bigger and whether we're getting more people. I love to joke around with those people and be like, yeah, well, we're running out of chairs at home, so we might have to start a new one somewhere else soon.
While many of the activities for Kiwi Church happen in Hallsville, there's a lot of us that gather from other suburbs. That's a real challenge in terms of being able to build that community, because it's that physical distance, busyness of our lives makes it hard for people to actually connect.
Sometimes you don't see people very often. You have to be intentional about making relationship, connecting.
So we need to find ways for people to be in those more network communities, so supported and encouraged, but at the same time each have their own life and their own independence to explore faith together.
I guess our hope is that Kiwi Church really is a network of smaller communities which gather as they are able in their locality, but then also being able to be part of a wider network that allows us to come together and share life together as well.
We've talked about, who has a voice or who doesn't have a voice. It seems to me that that's pretty much what Jesus was about. He spent his time forming community and then looked around at the ones who didn't have a voice or who were excluded, who were the other, the outsiders, and he brought them into the centre. I mean, the most powerful example was when they were arguing about who was the greatest, and he took a child and put the child at the centre and said, this is what it means to be in the kingdom. And he took the leper, and he took the Samaritan woman and the Samaritan man, and all of these different people throughout his ministry, and he put them in the centre of the community. And I think that's the simplicity of Christian community in our culture, is who is excluded and how are they included and how are they given power.
Sometimes I wonder how awesome would it be if somebody could walk into a church and look around and not really be able to identify who the people in charge are, not really know who the minister is or who the servant team is or any of that stuff, because it's a level playing field. Everybody's there for the same reason.
And a question I heard recently, which we'll talk about a lot, is in any context, who speaks for God? And when you think about it, actually, if it's just the clergy that speak for God, then we've got some problems, because we can't be the centre of that. It has to be in community. Everyone has to have the opportunity to speak and to be heard.
So I consider myself very lucky at the age of 12, 13, to have the question presented to me, what is church and why is it actually important? What we need to try to do is come up with new ways of doing church so that we can reach the people that aren't interested. Maybe we don't need to be limited by everything that's come before us. Maybe we can try something new. Maybe church is very simple.